Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're here in the kitchen again because we are going to make one of my most favorite types of bread. We are going to make a basic focaccia. This is a delicate Italian bread that makes great sandwiches and frankly hardly ever gets made into sandwiches around here because somebody, namely Tristan and I, eat it right out of the oven. So I love this basic focaccia. There's a lot of ways to jazz focaccia up and do something different with it, but this one is just basic. I will later down the road show you some variations because they're also a lot of fun. Anyway, let's get started. Now it is early morning because I like to give this dough an extra rise time, so a little bit longer. So instead of letting it rise 1 hour and then 1 hour, I usually do 90 minutes and 90 minutes for my 2 rise cycles. So we're up really, really early just because we want this ready for breakfast. So let's get started. We're going to need 1 cup of water. Put that right in the bread maker. Now I am using the bread maker today just to make the dough because it's early. It's like 4 a.m. and I want to go back to bed. So I don't want to sit here and mix dough all morning. So I'm using the bread maker. 1 egg. Pop that in there. You want 1 teaspoon of salt. Any salt will do you. Sea salt is particularly good. I don't have any sea salt this morning, so I use table salt. 1 tablespoon of sugar. You can also use honey if you don't want to use sugar. Honey works really well in this particular recipe. Now that's it for our liquids. Remember, this is a very basic focaccia. 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Try not to spill it. Haha. Got most of it. And then we want to do 1 heaping teaspoon of yeast. In my case, I'm using bread machine yeast because I'm using the bread machine. You can, of course, use traditional yeast if you're doing this by hand or if you're doing it in your mixer. Traditional yeast is fantastic. I'm using bread machine. You can also use quick rise and a bread maker just to make things go a little bit faster. So we're going to pop that in the bread maker. I'm going to use the dough cycle, which on my machine will take 1.5 hours, but I'm giving an extra half-hour rise time, so it'll actually take a full 2 hours. So we'll come back in 2 hours when my dough is ready to be manipulated. All right, so our focaccia dough is ready. It has been rising for about 90 minutes. So after its initial mix, then you knead it, then you let it rise for 90 minutes till it's doubled in size. It may take a little while. Remember, there's no fat in this dough. So get yourself a cookie sheet. Here we go. So get yourself your cookie sheet. Pick up your dough. Squeeze all the air out of it. Okay? Make sure there's no air. Put it on a cookie sheet and press it into about a 12-inch circle. Okay, try to keep the circle even, but if it's not that even, it's not that big a deal. You're just going to eat the dough anyway. You eat the bread. So it doesn't really matter if it's that even, but, you know, if you want it to look nice, make it mostly even. If you see any air bubbles, give them a little squish. There we go. Just leave it about like that. Now we're going to put it somewhere warm to rise for about another 90 minutes or so till it puffs up and doubles in size. Okay, so we're just going to ignore it. Then we'll come back, do our last bit of prep, and bake it. So again, put it in a warm location, cover it up, let it rise for about 90 minutes. All right, so our dough has risen. It is now sunny out. Well, at least it's brighter out. It's not 4 a.m. anymore. So now we can prep this to go in the oven. So preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the same temperature we cook sourdough at. That gives it its distinctive crispy crust. So in order to get that crispy crust and its distinctive look, there's a couple of things we have to do. So first, you're going to take your finger and you're just going to jam some holes about halfway down into your dough. So don't go all the way to the ground and go about 1 inch apart-ish, sort of. So just do that. Go about halfway down and then just keep going on an inner circle. And then one in the middle. There you go. I'll put one right there. So now you're going to take some olive oil, drizzle that on, be generous, couple of tablespoons, and then take a basting brush and just kind of make sure it gets over everything. You do want your entire crust covered. Don't be afraid to get yourself a little more olive oil if you need it. I'm probably not going to because I was pretty generous with that first pour. But if you need a second pour of olive oil, that's what you do. So you're going to want a couple of tablespoons worth of olive oil on here. Now for the topping, we are just going to do a very basic topping. Get rid of that. We're just going to do a very, very basic topping because this is a basic focaccia. So the first thing we're going to start with is some salt. You can use either sea salt or a Himalayan salt, a kosher salt if you like. Use something with a little bit of texture to it, so not a table salt, that's too thin. So you can use a chunky salt if you like, but whatever you use, it shouldn't be as thin as a table salt. Be generous with your salt. You're probably going to need a teaspoon in total, or even a little more is okay. Then we're going to take some rosemary. And again, you're going to want about a teaspoon and just sprinkle that over there. This is delicious. And then we're going to pop this in the oven. There's a dog running around. We are going to pop this in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes at 400 degrees. So 20 minutes if you want a lighter focaccia, 30 minutes if you want a darker one, and anywhere in between for a crust that's anywhere in between. So we'll come back as soon as that has baked. I'm going to bake mine about 25 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So our delicious and beautiful focaccia is now done. You can see it looks great and it will taste great when you slice it. It'll have a soft inside and it'll have a nice glossy crust because of the olive oil. Don't cut it until it's cooled because the best focaccia, I know we all love hot bread, but the best focaccia has been cooled before it's been cut. So that is how you make a basic focaccia. I hope you enjoyed doing that with us today. And I do encourage you to try this on your own. It is a crowd pleaser and it looks great on the table. When you are slicing it, you can simply slice it like so, nice and across, and you can cut it once down the middle if you need smaller slices. That's about it for us here at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.